I'm Jeff Slakey. I'm happy to have in studio at this time and every week at this time, Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury. Good morning, sir.
Good afternoon. Good morning.
Morning.
Good afternoon.
Good
morning.
It's 7:45 in the morning there, Casey. It is a morning
Been
time.
up for a while.
Yeah, no, I got that. How you doing?
Good.
We got school coming up soon. We're getting ready to do our Pride Night, which I want to talk to you a little bit about because you're a Shelton High School graduate,
Yes.
right? So we'll talk about that later. But first, school is coming up. We need to remind folks that traffic fines and people are out, the kids are out, and for many, first time they've ever even left the home to kind of walk on their own.
Yes. I had a week off and I was on a motorcycle ride, and it kind of reminded me of we were moving through some towns on the east side that don't have the traffic that we do, and went through some schools that are really out in the middle of nowhere. And many of our schools sit on rather main roads with pretty good traffic flow. And that's really concerning when you go through Belfair, for instance. You've got the elementary school right there on the side of the highway, and many of our schools sit on not major thoroughfares but high traffic flow areas. And so we're going to be asking our people to, when they can be in those zones, to be in those zones as a reminder to get people to start slowing down and get reminded that kids are walking from all different directions into those zones all over the county. And so we want to be reminded that that's a real safety issue at the beginning of the year.
Do you do increased emphasis patrols, or do you have sheriff's officers working with the city police at the schools, or?
I think the city, a couple of years ago, we set up a traffic emphasis program and with our traffic unit, and of course we're going to cover most of the county schools, and I know the city will move into their zones as well. And as many places that we have people for, we try to get into those areas. Our admin staff will go out and sit in those zones as well, just to kind of get the idea, be sitting in the zone, get the idea that people need to slow down in those areas. Even our schools that are in rural areas, if you go all the way out to Merriam Knight, that's still a main road through there, and you have big trucks moving through there, and you have a lot of traffic moving through there. And so we just want people to be reminded that we're starting moving that year. There's going to be a lot of little people out walking around, and we need to be reminded to slow down and be very careful.
So that also, like you mentioned, Belfair and Merriam Knight, those are not in the city of Shelton, obviously, so there's not city police that can also help out for this. So is it, you guys strained a little bit at this point?
Oh yeah, we only have so many deputies on a day, and so we'll put them out, and myself and Chief Sperling and Chief Osterhout and the undersheriff will be out in different areas, trying to make up the difference in those zones, just to be in there as much as we can.
Yeah.
If there's other calls pending, we have to go to those first. But,
obviously.
Be reminded, and also the State Patrol will be concentrating their efforts on those areas where there's a state highway, and perhaps Highway 3 going through Belfair. You'll probably see a trooper up there working that area pretty heavily. Some of our schools are off on a little bit side roads, but in order to get to the side road, you have to cross some roads to get there. So it's still a lot of people moving around, and traffic flow is different. People are pulling in and out of the schools on first day, and a lot of new kids that haven't been to school before, parents are dropping them off, so there's extra cars, and learning how the bus routes operate and things like that. So we just ask for people to be really cautious as we come up on that time.
You mentioned that you had kind of been off for the last couple of days, so if you haven't been briefed on this yet, this story about the citizen who held the felon at gunpoint while your deputies arrived. Can you talk to me a little bit about this? Is this something that you would encourage the county residents to do? Or?
Whenever I'm off, there's always something like that seems to happen. And so usually what I get is out in the middle of Eastern Washington, in the middle of a wheat field, we stop and
you'll read
hey,
the
boss,
report.
just to let you know, this is what happened. So when you hear about it on the radio or the news, and they usually, the first thing I want to know is everybody all right? And we do everything within policy and everything, and according to the chief, when I talked to him, everything on our part was done within policy, and the person obviously, tried to elude the officers, and they backed off. The deputies backed off like they're supposed to, and eventually the person, planted his car against a tree. The thing that I would tell you is I haven't read the black and white report yet, because I got in at 8 o'clock last night and got here this morning. That's a tremendous responsibility. And it sounds to me, and again, I reserve the right to go back on this. I've been told that the citizen that did this did a very good job. When you're in a law enforcement business, at any public meeting you go to, I have for 28 years, there's always the one guy that wants to know when he can point his gun at somebody. That's the guy that makes me nervous. It's a tremendous responsibility when you start doing that, and you really better know what your rights and responsibilities and what you're going to be accountable for or held to, the standard you're going to be held to when you do that. So we certainly at this time, we really appreciate that citizen, helped out on that. But I would very much caution people to understand what your rights and responsibilities are, because there's a lot of people that seem to me they just can't wait to ask you, when can I point my gun at somebody? And I've been hearing that question every place I go for 28 years. And usually the person that's asking that is the one that really concerns me, because if they don't know by now and they have a gun, they probably shouldn't have. And then that's what concerns me. So I really appreciate, when we have citizens assist on things. According to the report I got on the telephone, that everything went well in that circumstance, and this person was had real issues that we caught there. So I'm glad that we got them safely off the roadway, and that everybody performed admirably.
Well, very good. Well, thank you. And I do know that you just came in and you were just hearing that information, but I wanted to kind of get a better understanding on that. 7:51 next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, is the next Community Pride Night for Shelton High School, celebrating fall sports, kicking things off. You're a Shelton High School grad, so we're celebrating this week as kind of affirming that a high school education and getting your graduation, your diploma, is an important thing. You agree to that statement?
I was a teacher here, as you know. I taught in the Shelton district as well many years ago, and I still go back and do schoolwork and time to time substitute teach and things. I think what's happened this last year, and I really credit Dr. Apostle for coming in very energized and putting things together and really taking a stand at moving the district forward. And I think these kind of things, the Community Pride Nights, I've been to a couple of the evening programs that Dr. Apostle has presented. I think the most important thing that we're seeing with him that I just admire so much is that he has a list of priorities and he has goals and objectives for the district. And when your leadership has goals and objectives and priorities and sticks to those, the ground that you can cover and the distance you go is outstanding, and everybody knows which direction you're going. And because of his leadership in doing that, it's really brought the district, in my opinion, around to moving forward and really energizes kids. I know I've been to a couple years ago when he first got here and my kids were wrestling. He shows up at the wrestling match and talks to kids, and it's really been a neat program. It was one of the programs that he had earlier. Huge turnout, and that's what it takes. It really does in the community, and I would tell you, from a person that went through here and taught school for a number of years, there's no time like right now to have a good education. I look at technology and the way it's going much past where I'm at, how fast education is moving through the use of technology. You really got to have it to keep going in the world. You really got to have that education to keep up with the times, and I'm just really thrilled that he's brought that energy. And I went out to a program week before last on school safety. Was with the school districts, all the school districts, for a week, looking at keeping our kids safe and the things that the superintendents of all the districts in Mason County are working towards and the direction that they're going. I think it's just fantastic. They're really doing a super job, all the districts, and it shows. It shows in the number of people that show up for events and the support that the kids have, and I think you're going to start to see it show up in a winning attitude and things like that. I think they've done a great job.
Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury, Shelton High School grad, and what did you teach? What classes?
Originally, I was schooled to teach biology and anatomy and physiology, but I ended up teaching elementary school for a few years. I even taught kindergarten for a short time.
Oh my gosh.
And I taught 5th and 6th grade, then I taught junior high science, I taught a little bit of high school science.
Were you teaching kindergarten during that Arnold Schwarzenegger kindergarten cop movie?
I was before that.
Oh my gosh.
But that's kind of the way it was.
Very good. All right, 7:54, we'll let you get out of here. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It is time, 7:54 at iFiber One News Radio. We'll be right back after this.
What's taking so long to download that song? What are you using?